Today, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs will be back in a New York federal courtroom, this time trying to appeal the judge's decision yesterday to deny him bail and keep him behind bars. The charges against Combs were revealed in a sweeping indictment. Combs now accused of leading a criminal enterprise for decades to engage in how it's described: sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The indictment specifically cites video obtained exclusively by CNN that shows Combs dragging and kicking his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a Los Angeles, this is the beginning of the video, in a Los Angeles hotel in 2016. The video is very disturbing. Combs' attorney says he's innocent.
It's a bad video for Mr. Combs, and he said so himself when he gave his apology. This is 8 years ago, and the prosecutors are talking about him bribing a hotel security worker. There was no criminal investigation. This was just a matter of personal embarrassment because he and the person in the video were in the midst of a 10-year relationship. That was difficult at times, that was toxic at times, but it was mutually so. And this whole notion that Mr. Combs is forcing drugs on someone is just nonsensical, and it's going to prove to not be true.
Joining me right now is defense attorney and former prosecutor Randy Zelin and CEO of Turnaround Inc., an organization that works to combat human trafficking, Amanda Rodriguez. Thank you both for being here. Amanda, you also worked for the state of Maryland for years to fight human trafficking. What do you see in this indictment?
I would assume, based on the indictment, that there are probably additional charges that are eventually going to come. I think the reality is racketeering is a significant charge. It involves a lot of evidence that obviously has been collected already. I also noticed that there is one victim at this point that's been included in the entirety of the indictment. But based on that racketeering charge, I would anticipate that there's probably something else coming.
I mean, from your experience, how challenging is it to prosecute trafficking cases like this, especially when you add in the layer, Amanda, of it involving someone powerful and influential and well-known?
You know, we've actually seen this recently in Baltimore, and I think the real thing to remember with survivors that come forward in instances when there is someone that is famous is that they are going to be in the public media and scrutinized. And that's something that all survivors of sexual violence experience when their cases move forward. And so the reality is that this is going to be a really difficult journey for that survivor as well. In terms of difficulty in prosecution, as long as the prosecution and the investigation is offender focused and not on the back, essentially, of the victim, the cases have plenty of evidence to support, generally speaking, the indictments that are brought and the prosecutions that are brought. I think that sometimes there's this difficulty in understanding that reliance on the victim is not always going to be the thing that wins the day, because those turn in easily into he said, she said. But there is plenty of evidence. There's plenty of witnesses that witnessed this activity. There's plenty of things that they've recovered, undoubtedly, that show that this instance or these instances potentially happened, enough to bring an indictment. So the cases are difficult if we don't properly plan for not relying completely on a victim statement when that victim has experienced extreme trauma.
And Randy, today, as I'd mentioned earlier, Combs and his team, they're back in court asking to actually get bail now, appealing the decision from yesterday to keep him behind bars. Do you think that he will be or should be successful in this?
Well, should be and will be two very different things.
True.
Should be, what we're talking about when a judge in a federal case looks at bail, the judge says, okay, Mr. Combs, is there any condition? Are there any combination of conditions that will ensure that you will come to court when you're supposed to and you're not a danger to anyone? What's interesting is that when you have this kind of a hearing to determine whether you should stay in or get out, first of all, we have a presumption of release. He's presumed innocent, except in a sex trafficking case. Now there's a presumption that you should stay in, but that presumption is rebuttable. Mr. Agnifilo has come forth with a robust bail package, $50 million. So should he be? He came to New York voluntarily. He's been here. The allegations go back to 2008. If he was going to split, he would have done so already. However, look at Ms. Maxwell, no bail. Look at Jeffrey Epstein, no bail. So will he be, as opposed to should he be? that's a tough call.
It's very interesting, Randy, as you put it. Amanda, the indictment alleges that Combs hosted what he called freak-offs. These were elaborate sex performances that could go on for days. He drugged and coerced victims into these sex acts with male sex workers, and also Combs would watch and record it, according to the indictment. And also that here's the wording from the indictment, used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. I read that and I was thinking, so when someone tries to blame the victim here and question why they didn't run, why they didn't go tell the police, what does your experience tell you?
You know, that's like the age-old question of why did she stay, that we've kind of framed some of these, whether it's gender-based violence based on intimate partner violence or trafficking. And the reality is they have created, the manipulator, the trafficker creates a situation in which a victim simply cannot get out, whether it's based on shame that they've piled on top of this victim or whether it's violence. I think that the real unfortunate thing with cases like these, when we start talking about that shame element, is that that's something that, again, we can inherently change as a society to make sure that victims are not shamed in instances like this. But what is real is that traffickers are master manipulators. They exploit vulnerabilities in victims. And so they can identify what those vulnerabilities are, often connected to you're a sex worker, so you don't deserve justice, or you're a foster kid, you don't deserve family. Use that to ensure that a victim continues to be manipulated, just like in a situation of intimate partner violence where we isolate victims. It's a very, very common tactic.
Randy, can you give me a final thought on kind of the road ahead, how challenging it is, and what his defense is going to be?
So, as far as what his defense is going to be, I think that's way too early to tell, and I wouldn't be so irresponsible. What I will say, what jumps out at me is, again, this wide net that we see in this speaking indictment going back to 2008. Where the hell have you been for the past 16 years that you allowed all of this to go on? I've actually tried cases like this, and it may be difficult to get over the crossing of the state lines, but the violence part, there may be a road to hoe.
Also hearing, I mean, one thing that always sticks out is that the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District said he's not ruling out, the investigation's ongoing, not ruling out more charges or arrests could be coming. And so we've got much more to follow.
And lots
and a
of
long road ahead.
cooperators.
Yeah, Randy, thank you. Amanda, thank you very much for coming in. John.